welcome back to my channel. So this week's technique is a continuation of cable. So I do hope you got on okay with last week's swatch. Now this one is actually quite exciting. So the way I've done this is I've decided to show you 3 different cables using the same set of needles. Okay, so we've used a set of 8 needles, and this is the first cable that we're going to be learning, and we move over to a very slight variation to the bottom one, which is cable number 2, and then we move over to cable number 3. And again, this is literally the same number of needles that we've used, or the same set, and we've just done different ones going all the way to the top. Okay, so now I do recommend having a little practice if you are new to cable work, or if you are a beginner, just because it can be a little bit fiddly, I guess, trying to transfer so many stitches or using a couple of transfer tools. And otherwise, you know, have a go and see how you get on. Now I do hope you enjoy this technique. Right, so let's get started. Right, so I have gone ahead and casted on 30 needles and knitted a few rows. Now we are going to start off with doing the first cable. Okay, so now I tend to start my cables or any sort of pattern from the center. Okay, so your knitting machines would have a number tape underneath the needles, which basically indicate the number of needles. So I am starting at the center, which is 0. So the cables that I'm going to be showing you today are all done within sets of 8 needles. Okay, so the idea of this demonstration is to show you 3 kinds of cable or variations to doing cables within the set of 8. Right, so what we're going to do is transfer. What we're going to do is pick 4 needles on the left hand side of the 0 and 4 needles on the right hand side of the 0. Okay, and then I am going to grab a single prong transfer tool and transfer the 5th needle on the left hand side to my left, and then the 5th needle on my right hand side to my right. Now when I say the 5th needle, obviously you've got 0 in the center, then you've got 5, 10, 15, and then 0 in the center, 5, 10, 15 on your right hand side. Okay, so those empty needles, I am going to go ahead and push them all the way to the back of the bed into non-working position. Now I'm going to go ahead and knit 2 rows. Now the demonstration is just done using Mercerised Cotton on tension 5. Of course, just for practice, this yarn knits quite well for cables, but you can go ahead and pick whichever yarn you've got on hand. Okay, nothing too fragile, something a bit more sturdy and a bit more strong. Okay, so go ahead and grab 2 2-prong transfer tools. Okay, so what we're going to do is first take the left hand side, so the left 4 needles of the 0, okay, and grab the left 2 on the one tool and the right 2 on the other tool, and swap those stitches around. Okay, so my left set is going to go over to my right first, and then my right set is going to go over to my left. So that is a right over left transfer. And I'm going to push those 4 needles out, and I'm going to take the next set of 4, and this time we're going to do the opposite. Okay, so my right goes onto my left first, and then my left goes onto my right. So that is a left over right transfer. And my needles have been pushed forward. Now with cables, because it's quite tight, depending on the tension and yarn you use, you will notice that your needles are starting to sort of cling onto each other. So don't worry about that. Push those needles forward and knit 1, knit 2 rows. Okay, once you've done your 2 rows, now we're going to take those left 2 needles, okay, right on the edge, So working on the third and the fourth needle, we're going to take those needles and move them over by one over to the left, and one of those stitches will fall onto your empty needle. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the right hand side. So my last two needles on the right set go over by one. So essentially we've got the empty needle now on the third needle on the left and third needle on the right, and push those all the way over to the back. Okay, so go ahead and knit 2 rows. Right, and now we're going to take the center 4 needles and do a cable on those 4 needles. Now I'm going to transfer the left onto my right first, and then the right over to my left. Push those needles forward. Knit 4 rows. And now you can start to see the cable forming. Okay, I've knit 4 rows, and now we're going to go ahead and take those left 2 that we've moved outwards. Okay, so the 4th and the 5th needle, or the stitches, sorry, move them back towards the center, and then do the same on the right hand side, move them back over towards the center. So now we've got our center 8 needles back into work, and the 5th needle on the left and right hand side go all the way out into non-working position. Okay, so once you've done so, go ahead and do the center cable again. So the left goes onto my right and my right goes onto my left. Push those needles forward and knit 4 rows. So once you've done the 4 rows, now we're going to repeat that cable transfer that we did on the bottom, okay? So the left 4 first. So the left goes to the right first, the right goes over to the left. So that's a right over left transfer. And then you do the opposite on the next set. So the right goes in first, and then the left goes over to the right. So that's a left over right transfer. Push your needles forward, knit 2 rows. And now take the left 2 stitches. So that's your 3rd and 4th stitch, and move it out by 1. And do the same on the right set, okay? So you've got your center 4 working, and then you've got an empty needle on the left and the right hand side of that. Knit 2 rows. Now do your cable in the center. Left goes onto the right first, and the right goes over to your left. Knit 4 rows. And then do your center cable. Do your center cable and move the left 2 stitches towards the center and the right 2 stitches towards the center. So then you've got your center 8 back into work. Knit 4 rows. So that is basically the first cable, okay? So everything from there on is basically just to repeat. I am going to do the last cable transfer. So doing the left 4 first, the left goes to your right first, and then the right gets swapped over to the left, and then the opposite on the right hand side. And knit 2. So you basically start right back at the bottom where you move these stitches outwards, and then you knit a few rows, do your center cable, knit a few, do another cable, and so on. Okay, so that was your first set. Okay, so cable number 2, again working with the set of 8 needles, and going back to our double prong transfer tools. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is move our 2 stitches out, okay? So the edge 2 stitches of that set of 8, we're going to move out by 1. That empty needle goes all the way to the back into non-working position. Do the same on the right hand side. Okay, so we've got our center 4 needles working. Knit 2 rows. And now we're going to go ahead and do our cable in the center again. So my left goes onto my right first, and then my right goes onto my left. So it is a right over left transfer. Do 4 rows. Go ahead and repeat that. So we're going to do a cable again, but this time we're swapping, okay? So we're going to go to the left first. So the right goes over to your left first, and the left goes over to your right next. Do 4 rows. And now we're going to swap that again. So the left goes onto my right first, and then the right goes onto my left. So we're just alternating the swap, the transfer that we're doing. And we are going to do that once more, okay? Okay, and now move those left 2 stitches back in towards the center. So then you've got your center 8 back into working. Knit 4 rows. And now do the cable within the left 4 needles, okay? So the left goes to your right first, and then the right goes over to your left. And then do the cable on the next set of 4. This time the right goes to the left, and then the left goes over to your right. And knit 2 rows. Now go ahead and transfer the edge 2 needles back out by 1, then the right 2 needles back out by 1, and knit 2. So the idea is to do cables within these big sections, okay? So that's going to fall right in the center. Now I'm going to do that once more, okay? So the center cable, so the cable in the center 4, left goes to your right first, and then the right goes over to your left, and knit 4 rows. And now we're going to swap that around. So the right goes to my left first, and the left goes over to my right, and then knit 4. And then swap it around again. And you can do it, we'll do it once more. Right goes over to my left, and left goes over to my right, and knit 2. And then the left edge stitches come back in towards the center to go back to the formation of 8 needles. And that is cable number 2. So you've got sort of like a wavy line of the cables going in the center of a bigger cable. Okay, so cable number 3. Now, with the help of a single prong transfer tool, we are going to transfer the center 2 needles, okay? So the first needle to the left of the 0, transfer it to your left, and then the second one, transfer it to your right. So we'll be left with 2 empty needles. Now push 1 forward, knit 1, push the other forward, and knit 2, okay? Now go ahead and grab a 2-prong transfer tool. So with this time, the cable that we're going to do is a 2-in-1, okay? So we are going to have the 2-prong transfer tool onto our edge 2 needles, okay? And the single prong onto just the 1 needle. And what we're going to do is take the right stitch, the one on your single prong transfer tool, and transfer it right to the last needle. Then take the 2 stitches and transfer it over to the remainder 2. Okay, now do the same on this side, but just swap it around. So you've got your single prong transfer tool on your left and then your double prong on your right. And move the single one first to your right and then the left to your left. Okay. Push those needles forward, knit 1, and now transfer the center 2 needles back out. So 1 to your left, right, and 1 to your left. Push 1 forward, knit 1, push the other forward, and knit another. Okay, so the cable transfer that we're doing is going to be every 4 rows, right? So repeat that again. So again, the left 3, take the multi and transfer tool. The single one goes all the way to the last needle first, and then the left 2 go to your right, and then swap them around on the right hand side. So the single one goes to the edge needle first, and then the right 2 go over to your left. Knit 1. Go ahead and do your center transfer work. Push 1 needle forward, knit 1, push the other needle forward, knit 2. Now go ahead and do your cable again. So the single goes first and then the 2 stitches go over to your right, swap them around. Knit 1, do your center transfer, okay, so repeat that. I'm just going to change that center transfer slightly. So I've knit 1 row and I'm going to go ahead and transfer the needles back out. And then push the center needle back in and then do the cable. So I'm just taking out 1 row out of that center basically. I'm just going to see what that does. So I've knit the 1 row and I'm going to do my transfer again. Okay, so I prefer the top bit here. So, right, okay, so I'm just going to go over that, okay. So do your cable on the left first, then do your cable on the right hand side. And then at this point, you will already have 1 needle working, so go ahead and push that other needle back into work and knit 1, okay? Now do your center transfer again, and then push 1 needle into working, and then push the the other empty needle back into working, and then do your cable. I think I've done the cable every 2 rows by mistake, but anyway. So that is basically your cable number 3. which is again only a slight variation to everything we've done. Well, I hope you enjoy that technique. Now, there is just so much you can do with what I've just shown you. Now, just by changing the number of rows that you do between each cables, or moving them around slightly more than what I've done, or even actually moving the placement around within the cable, so you can always have something going to the side of it rather than having them on top of each other. You can actually get a different outcome, as always, with knit. Now, if you do have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to my channel, and also follow me on Instagram, because I do have a lot of knit inspiration up there. And if you are new, do have a look at my knit patterns on my website. There's some exciting swatches on there that you can buy, and all my yarns available on my website. All right, I'll see you next week. Happy knitting.